Okay, so I know there's tons and tons of Air Force videos out there and all the other branches of the military, but everything's constantly changing. Even with all those videos out there, I thought I would just kind of chronicle some of the experiences I'm having as I'm going through the process. I swore into the Air Force this past week, and so I figured we'd kind of explain what that entails and the process you have to go through, starting with the beginning and kind of going through the rest of it as it comes. So to start off with, as far as why I joined the Air Force, there's a lot of factors that went into it. I'm 24 years old, so I'm not the youngest when it comes to applying for the Air Force. But in general, as far as starting off, super easy, just like everybody else. Started with a recruiter, got some paperwork done. The Air Force has a large amount of medical paperwork, a little bit more than some of the other branches because their entrance requirements are stricter. So we got all those squared away. Be prepared to be with your recruiter for a couple hours. We found it to be a lot faster if we made sure we had any kind of documentation you could think of beforehand so they can start scanning because they'll scan everything you can think of.
We were there for 5 hours.
We were there for 5 hours the second time. So if you ever had any surgeries already, get that paperwork now, even before you meet with the recruiter. He'll love you even more if you have everything set for him right away. Because anything that required you to get put under or procedures, generally they want that in paper. So after that, we got the date schedule for when I'd head up to MEPS. So where we are in Idaho, the closest MEPS is 3 hours away in Butte, Montana. Here's a picture of Butte if you want to see what it looks like. Okay, so that was Butte. It's a massive city of 30,000 people. So before I went to MEPS, though, what my recruiter had me do was already brainstorm what jobs I'm interested in. Obviously, they want you to keep an open mind, so that was important. We talked for a long time, and I was interested. For me personally, I've always wanted to do something with flight, so that was my number one area of interest, along with intelligence was a close second, and medical was another one. So pretty much all over the place. But so you discuss those things, and I it was explained to me that I'd be listing 8 jobs and 2 aptitude areas. There's 4 open categories you can go into: administrative, mechanical, electrical. What happened after that?
You took to say how ASVAB was, your
Okay.
experience with that.
So after discussing jobs and how those things work, he set a date for me. It was only like a couple of days later. I don't know. It really depends on where you're at. But with us, they have people going up to MEPS like every 2 or 3 days. And 90% of the time, it's an overnight thing. Sometimes they can get you in all in one day. But I hear that's less and less common. More often than not, they'll have you spend the night. You'll take the ASVAB in the afternoon, go to a hotel, and then next morning you'll have your medical. So I'll talk about that. We headed up to Butte. This is me saying goodbye to my wife.
So how do you feel about going up to MEPS?
I'm not looking forward to it, but it's necessary. It'll be good.
Bye.
Bye. So drove up there. We got straight to the ASVAB. As far as the ASVAB itself, it's not bad at all. I think a lot of people worry about it being just like the SAT or the ACT. Honestly, I think it was a whole lot easier than that, but it really just depends on the person. For example, I'm horrible at math and science, so those sections killed me. But there's tons of practice ASVABs online, and so I took as many of those as I could, and it wasn't too bad. It's computerized. It took me about 2 hours. Just be MEPS. Be prepared to be moving quickly. I don't know how to make this interesting enough. And with that too, there's definitely some interesting experience we have at MEPS. We were in a group of about 15. That was it. Almost everybody was going Army except 3 of us that were going Air Force. And you definitely get all walks of life. It was interesting. There were some 17-year-olds, and there was another guy who was 28, and everything in between. And everybody joins for different reasons. That's part of the fun of MEPS. Get to talk to the people. Obviously, at MEPS, it's kind of hard to talk to them, but the night before, usually you're in the same hotel. So we had a liaison there who kind of explained the rules. We had a curfew of 10 o'clock. Granted, no one left the hotel, though, because we had to get up early the next morning, so we just stayed there and hung out. But as far as the ASVAB and the hotel that night, really not that much to say. It's a test,
They paid
and
for
obviously, yeah, they pay for everything. They paid for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and obviously the hotel. Thanks, Uncle Sam. Everything's paid for. In case you're wondering what for dinner was, this is how great my English was on the ASVAB too. What was for dinner? We had just like the hotel food, and they were super nice. The whole time they were like, "Thank you so much, by the way, for what you're doing." And I was like, "I haven't even signed anything yet, and you guys are thanking me for being a civilian." So, but it was nice. We appreciated it. So they informed us next morning, wake up call. Which, by the way, they gave us a wake up call at our hotel room. It was 4:45 in the morning. So that night, I went back to studying over some of the jobs and what I'd be interested in, and got to know my roommate. He's going Air Force as well, so we talked for a while about jobs. He wanted to go security forces, so I was wanting to do something with loadmaster, aerial refueling, things like that. Even air traffic control, anything that put me around aircraft or on one was what I wanted, and he just wanted security forces, which is a really, really hot job right now. Everybody, or the Air Force, really needs people for security forces, so more than likely you'll probably hear your recruiter mention that too. So we went to bed. I barely slept, not because I was nervous, but because I was terrified, because I was so afraid that they would find out that, oh, by the way, you have West Nile virus, you're disqualified. So the whole night I was really apprehensive, but I woke up at ODARC 100, showered, and right about that moment, things just take off really fast. We went downstairs, we had breakfast. You have to eat. You have to eat something, because if I had known that I wouldn't be eating again for like 8 hours, I definitely would have eaten more eggs. We ate as best as we could. We're all really excited. The three of us going Air Force got to know each other really well the night before dinner, and that was kind of a big morale boost. Definitely try to talk to people. So we headed up to the bus. Once again, they thanked us, and we went to MEPS. It's like a 15-minute drive from the hotel. They warn you over and over again not to bring in any weapons by accident. So if you own a gun, definitely don't bring it. Don't bring knives, even a pocket knife, they said. And that's also where the scaring starts. They'll definitely scare you a lot, as much as they can. They were like, if you even forget and bring it in, you will be taken outside and you'll be spending the day with the feds in a place you don't want to spend. And we were like, okay. And I don't carry a knife, but I still was like, this would be my luck, that there's like a butter knife from the kitchen in my pocket or something like that. That didn't happen. So you go in, and we went straight up to medical, and they go through a bunch of paperwork, signing almost everything with a thumbprint. It's all biometric. At least there, could be different where you're going, but a lot of it is biometric. And we signed a lot of paperwork to get it started, and that's when they start you through your rotational stations. The main things they check are your hearing, your sight, your blood, your pee, and your body movements in general, which I'll talk about. So vision test was really not bad. They'll do a depth perception test and a bunch of color blindness tests, and the little machine where if you ever go to the eye doctor and they have you look through the thing, and it's a little house at the end of the road, and the machine like focuses as it reads your eye. They do that. So but if you have contact lenses, definitely bring a case. They weren't very merciful for people who forgot one. One guy used a plastic cup with some water in it and just threw his contacts in there. So you can wear your contacts to MEPS, and you can wear them during the eye exam, but at one point they'll have you take them off to test your vision uncorrected. So they did that. I was nervous that they also check your peripheral vision, which is, you don't even really notice that they do that. But my vision, even with contacts, for some reason was 20/25, even though I know I've been tested at 20/20, which instantly disqualified me for a bunch of jobs, which was a huge bummer, including those flight jobs. So be prepared, because definitely don't settle for one job in specific, because anything could happen. I wasn't too bummed, but I'll talk about jobs in a second. They take blood, just one vial of blood. If you have a problem with the blood draw, it's not bad at all. It takes, I think, 30 seconds maybe, and they're quick. So no one had any problems with that, really. Pee test, they will watch you pee, literally watch you as the pee exits your body. They'll be standing right next to you. They're just checking for protein levels in your blood, really, and drugs, obviously. Don't do drugs. People have trouble peeing. The guy next to me could not get it, get himself to pee. He took him 3 tries. He stood there for about 5 minutes the first time. Then he left and came back two more times so he could finally get himself to pee, and he had to pee. It's just, I mean, generally you don't have someone standing next to you when you pee. So had to get our blood pressure and pulse checked too. They had to recheck mine. Took a couple tries because my pulse was so high. Every time I sat down, I got nervous because I was like, shoot, I hope my heart rate isn't high, and that made my heart rate go high. It's the worst circle that you could ever be in. And the guy who did my blood pressure, thankfully, was super cool. He's like, all right, man, I just want you to close your eyes and picture your heartbeat on a straight line, spaced apart. It dropped my heart rate by like 20 beats per minute. So they were very strict about not getting ahead of them on filling out paperwork. Yeah, they were really big on following instructions perfectly the first time. And they'll threaten to kick you out, and they would shuffle us around sometimes if we made a mistake, pretending like they were about to kick us out. No one got kicked out, thankfully, but as far as I understand, if you go too far ahead and fill out too much stuff incorrectly, they have to start over, and that could require you to come back to the next day or even later. So just follow directions best you can. And we had an interview with a doc, and they just make sure that you're healthy and good to go. And you'll have a range of motion test where you have to like duck walk and crawl. As long as you have legs and arms, you'll be totally fine with those two. Don't worry. The guys we were with made it really fun, actually. There's a lot of laughing and joking around as much as you can in MEPS. The instructors were kind of joking around with this. So after all that is done, so I started medical at 6 a.m. sharp, and I finished at 2:30. So that's 8.5 hours. And I would say 6 of those were spent waiting. You wait a lot. You can't sleep. They had a TV. Somebody put on Animal Cops Houston, and that's what I watched for like 4 hours. So I learned a lot about dogs while I was at MEPS. They do feed you lunch, which was super nice. They had us fill out a check sheet of what we wanted. So we ate lunch at about noon, and it was the best food I've ever had in my life. I was so hungry. We were all really, really hungry, and they gave us about a half hour to eat that, and that was fine. And after that, like I said, we finished medical, came back downstairs, more paperwork signing, more reviewing. They let you know, they called us up. When it was my turn, they called me my last name. They're like, you've been approved. You go downstairs, hand your paperwork over. They ask you for your social a lot. If you don't have your social memorized, memorize that as quickly as you can. They verify your address. Mine kept showing up wrong almost every time. For example, my apartment is 1002. They wrote down my apartment as being like 13657, something like that. And so I don't know how that's 1002. Okay, 15. I don't know how that happened, but every time you correct something, you just have to initial it and date it, and they'll show you how to do that. It's not too big a deal. So after that, more signing, more paperwork, more waiting. And then you went in, so I went in with a job counselor after that. Super nice. It was actually kind of a relief from coming from the medical floor because they, believe it or not, were a lot nicer. And that's where she printed out what jobs I qualified for based on my medical exam and my ASVAB. So I qualified for a lot of jobs and then had a lot taken away because of the 2025. A lot of jobs needed 2020. I was off by 5. So it was okay though. So I put down 8 jobs. My number 1 was a cardiopulmonary technician. Apparently the Air Force needs those. If you want more information about that, just let me know because they told me all about it. So that was my first job choice, and then most of the rest of them were intelligence, and general and electrical were my 2 open. So after that, you wait for those jobs to drop. What I was told is that we kind of get the leftovers at MEPS. Basic training gets the priority of jobs, and then we get the remainder, and they're kind of divvied out throughout the country for recruiting squadrons. I was at MEPS on a Wednesday to Thursday. Signed for those, or wrote down those 8 jobs on a Thursday, and I was told that I would find out Wednesday of the following week which job I was basically going to be assigned to. And today's Monday, so we should know in 2 days, and it's killing us because I really want to know what I'm doing. Hoping for that cardiopulmonary technician job, but we'll see. So after that, we did a background check. Just met with a guy went through some stuff. They'll ask you about 10 times if you ever even once done drugs. They don't care if you've had a speeding ticket. Obviously, if you have like 15 speeding tickets in the last 30 days, that could be a huge problem. But pay them off. If you've got an outstanding speeding ticket, just try to pay it off before you go to MEPS. Just makes things easier because they asked me, do you have any speeding tickets you haven't paid for yet? After that, we swore in, and that's really like a really surreal moment. And we were done. So I left the facility at 4:30 in the afternoon. So I was there for like 10 hours, 10 and a half hours. So it's a long day. After that, we just drove back, and that was it. And I'm just waiting to hear back for what jobs we're getting, or I'm getting. So if you have any questions, this is my first time doing one of these videos. If you look out there, like for example, Kyle got another guy, I think it's like off into the wild blue yonder, something like that. I don't know. They've got some great videos. They helped me a ton, and I'm sure they're going to continue to help me. So, but like I said, I figured I'd do one too, just to keep it as recent as possible with their procedures and stuff like that. So if you have any questions or want me to do a specific video on something, definitely let me know, and best of luck to you.